Welcome into another MLS six pack here on the SDH network. I'm Madison Cruz. Join with me this time is Jarrett Smith. We are going to recap everything that happened in week 2 of MLS and give you a sneak peek as to what you can expect in week 3. But first of all, Jarrett, nice to talk to you again.
I know, right? It's been a while, and it's been a chaotic 2 weeks, and not just in Atlanta, but around the league. Concacaf Champions Cup, which we'll get into, but league kicking off, and everyone making their knee-jerk reactions for better or worse.
Yeah, it's been crazy. I think just from the first week, there was so much more chaos than I would have expected. And then second week, it's the same thing as well. So let's go ahead and get into week 2. What were some of the things that stuck out to you when you were watching some of these matches, watching Atlanta United? What were some of the things that you really gravitated towards?
So for Atlanta, it's a frustrating game. I mean, we John and I hashed it out this week on the morning show that like you're kind of it's the old adage of goals change games. You're undone by two just get it out U9 clearances that sometimes sometimes the ball doesn't bounce your way, and then that first goal changes the game where Charlotte doesn't have to dominate the game, and then you get one misplay by Matt Edwards after a really good first half where I thought he put Zaha in about the eighth circle of hell to the point where you had a Premier League striker, winger, whatever you want to call him, trying to fight a 22-year-old because he was getting frustrated and couldn't play through it. Um, it's a frustrating result, mostly because the offense just didn't click when you needed it to. Like it just wasn't effective enough. But again, it's only the second week, so you want all of that to kick into gear, and I think they'll create more than enough chances. Now, if we're 2 months into this and we're like seeing a similar thing, then yeah, you want to reach up and hit that panic switch, live your best life. As far as other things around the league that stuck out to me, Philadelphia uh, has 8 goals in 2 games, I believe, and basically took a Cincinnati team that's playing Concacaf Champions Cup, took them out behind the shed with a hammer, and just had the worst of intentions and executed those intentions to a 4-1 win. So Philadelphia with a new manager, new look, changed a bunch of pieces. Jack McGlynn's gone, but hey, 2-0-0.
It's so interesting because I think going into this season, Philadelphia was the team I was kind of like, like I didn't
Yeah,
know what was gonna happen,
same.
like if it was gonna be, "Oh, it's gonna be fine," Jim Curtin's not there anymore, new head coach, it's gonna be that new coach bump, whatever it rolls, or if it was gonna be like, "Hey, we're kinda struggling, we've played a certain way for this long, and now we're moving a different direction, how is it gonna work?" And, they've really impressed me, really been impressed with Philadelphia.
Yeah, they have. And look, like I don't know what that looks like long term. Um, I don't know, you know, I don't know how the talent plays out for the entire season for them. Like they lost a lot of pieces that were key pieces. I thought they needed to make moves at the beginning of last year. I thought they held on a year too long. Did that thing where like we talk about a team getting rid of a player a year early versus a year late. I thought they were a year late on a number of guys, and it showed last year. But we'll see how long they can keep this going. But hey, the thing is if you can get out to a good start in this league and kind of separate yourself from the black hole that is the middle of the table, we've seen that it can make your life a lot easier, and you're not having to scoreboard watch as religiously, and it's a healthier way to live your life.
And we'll get a little bit more into Atlanta United as we get closer to the preview as well.
Mhm.
But I mean, I agree with all of your sentiments as well. It's unfortunate too. I mean, with Matt Edwards, it's an unfortunate mistake. It's a young player. It's going to happen. It's just him getting the chance to bounce back from that. And from what we've seen in training from me and Jason, we've seen that hustle. Like it's there and that grind. And we've seen it from all the players there after that bounce back after Charlotte. And that's the same thing. If you watch Training Ground Dispatch today, that did come out. We had the chance
Which
to
you
chat
should
with
do.
Ronnie Dyla, which you should do. It's very, very fun. We have a great time. It's always fun. Great news on Atlanta United, what happens in training during the week. But we asked Ronnie like how's the team bounced back? And he said that they've bounced back phenomenally. And he just gave so much praise to this group and what they can do. So hoping for a good turnout here against New York Red Bulls. But it's been a fun start to MLS so far. And not only with MLS, we also have the CONCACAF Champions Cup, which is
Hmm.
already also just chaos in itself. If you look behind me, we have, Inter Miami versus Cavalier going on right now. So chaos. What were some of the things that you saw in those games?
Well, my favorite thing funny thing was probably Ediano beating the Galaxy in their round of 16 matchup. Just because Ediano has like a relationship with Atlanta. That history still exists from when we played them a couple of years ago. And it's always fun to watch an MLS team get their nose smashed by a Central American team. Sometimes it's gonna be you. It's the same thing. Like we love Open Cup upsets, but to love Open Cup upsets, you have to embrace the fact that sometimes you are going to be the Open Cup upset, which Atlanta was 2 times in a row. Yay! It happens, but you got that. That was a lot of fun and genuinely hilarious to me. Yeah, man, it's gonna be tricky to see how a lot of these teams manage this. I was impressed though that LAFC, they're hosting Columbus. It's not like they went to Columbus,
Yeah.
but they still did a 15-step dance on Columbus's face.
Yeah. That one was rough. That was
Yeah.
3-0, 3-0 victory for LAFC at home for them. They'll go on the road to Columbus. It's weird. Columbus is, I feel like, trying to find themselves in this moment. Cucho Hernandez, I think, is a huge loss for them, and I think they're struggling to kind of find someone to be that person. Because I think you look at Cucho, and he's obviously like a striker. He was their goal scorer. He was that person up top you could count on. He was also that leader. He was a leader on the field for them, and I feel like that's something that they're missing right now, and they don't have that. And it's unfortunate that we're seeing it really play out a little bit in CONCACAF right now, but it'll be interesting to see how they bounce back. And then LA Galaxy, the reigning MLS Cup champions, they're kind of fallen a little bit, but obviously they're a different team right now. They don't have Ricky Puig. They don't have a lot of key players that they had when they made that MLS Cup run.
Yeah, they don't. You're right, and it's kind of like the figuring out how do you live your life without Ricky Puig. Um, Atlanta had to reckon with this existentially when you did the how do you live your life without Joseph. Um, it's not a one for one kind of comparison, but you kind of when you operate a certain way and you lose that piece, we had this question about Cincinnati when Lucho Acosta left. Like, how are you going to operate? Like, I love Evander. I think Evander's a great player.
Yeah.
He's not Lucho, which isn't to say that he's not good. Is that he's going to play it differently because he's not basically a fun version of Mathieu Valbuena, if you remember the tiny French La Petite Bicyclette, the little bicycle, who was part of some of those French national teams. Dude was like Messi sized and just like weaving in and out of people's legs like a cartoon character. But how do they adjust to that? How does Seattle adjust to things like Seattle? They got a 0-0 draw against Cruz Azul. Cruz Azul was missing a lot of people, including Yakomakis, who, hey, oh yeah, check the watch. Checking my watch, and yeah, it's time for Yakomakis to miss an important game, and he was banged up. But Cruz Azul gets a 0-0 draw in Seattle. I guess the other one, Maddie, that really was impressive to me, and this is not just this game. It's been impressive across the board for their first 2 weeks because they are 2-0-0. Vancouver, uh, 2 impressive wins in league. They would have loved to have beat Monterrey, but it's a 1-1 draw at BC Place. There are worse things in life than a 1-1 draw at Monterrey and giving yourself a chance in the second leg.
You make it more competitive when you go into the
Mm.
second legs. Most of those will happen between March 11th and March 13th. Obviously, we're still awaiting what is going to happen between Cavalier and Inter Miami. But the results for those games, you had a 1-1 draw between FC Cincinnati and Tigres. You had
Mhm.
LAFC win 3-0 against Columbus. You had Erdonado taking home the victory versus LA Galaxy in a 1-0 win. And then Seattle and Cruz Azul was a 0-0 draw. And then Vancouver and Monterrey was 1-1 as well. A lot of these games are still pretty competitive. I would say obviously the one outlier is LAFC and Columbus because Columbus is going to have to do a lot of work to get back into it, but it's not impossible. They're going home. They get the chance to go home and go in front of their home fans, so it's not impossible. But most of these games are very, very close. Now we'll see what happens with Inter Miami and Cavalier as it's going on. We got to do a quick check. No, it's still 0-0, just so that everyone knows.
Yeah.
But it's going to be interesting to see how these MLS teams fare going into the next leg of the round of 16.
Oh, I agree it is. And I maintain the philosophy personally that if you're in Concacaf Champions Cup, formerly CCL, early in the season, I don't care what you do in league. Like I'm probably going to we'll get to juice boxes later. I'm probably going to be juice box adjacent against you when you're in league games. It's not a slight against you. It's that I firmly believe if you're in CONCACAF Champions Cup and you have a chance at continental glory and hemispheric glory and you can rub it in the face of everyone in Liga MX, you do it. The league be damned for a couple of weeks. If you lose all those games 3-0, but you get to lift a trophy that only Seattle has lifted in this league, actually might be a new trophy now that it's CCL and it's a different format.
Yeah.
You do that, and that's okay. So like when we talk about these teams that are going to be playing in league this week, I don't really care. Like in terms of like if they win or lose, I'm not going to damn them or praise them one way or another. Focus on getting through these games. Like the Galaxy's going to have to come home, buckle down, and play against an Herediano team that is going to be pretty miserable to play against. I think like that's going to be some like after dark level of CONCACAF that is advanced darkness.
Very advanced. And, this will be going out a little bit after dark as well. So
Mhm.
welcome into the chaos that will be ensuing on the SDH network as we get going. But one thing, it's interesting when you look at these teams who are still in CONCACAF going into these leagues games. I mean, obviously, a big talking point was Inter Miami, especially in week 2 against Houston Dynamo. Obviously, it was announced Lionel Messi was not going to be playing, was not going to be in the lineup. And Houston, having to release a statement saying that, hey, we apologize. There's nothing we can do about it. But again, it's also too like, I mean, Lionel Messi, he's old. He's obviously getting older, but I get it. I get the draw for it. But they're focusing on CONCACAF right now. And unfortunately, actually, didn't actually start in this game either. He did not get the start against Cavalier as well. So it it's a weird situation dealing with players that need to be rested. So you're relying on maybe a lot more of your depth in a lot of those leagues games to get through because you're trying to focus on CONCACAF. You're trying to get through that to make it to the next round and keep going, then hopefully win the trophy.
It's a favorable draw for Miami too, the Cavalier draw.
Mhm.
It's not to damn Cavalier. It's just it's Miami. It's Beckham's Galacticos.
Yeah.
Yeah, they didn't have Messi in Houston. It didn't matter because Luis
No.
Suarez showed up, and I don't know what they're using on his knees. I'm assuming it's like maybe the same treatment they used on Kobe back in the day. Maybe something
Yeah.
newer, adamantium. I don't know. Whatever it takes. But Luis Suarez just turns back the clock at moments, and it's just hilarious to watch because it's like you watch him like, remember when he was great? Oh, you mean like that? Oh yes, exactly like that.
He has to do a little reminder. He's like, hey guys.
Yeah, yeah. It's like we get caught reminiscing at times about how great this. Like, oh, that guy was. Oh, well, you should have seen him when he was 31 years old. You mean when he would put up a goal and 3 assists? Because that's what he did to Houston, a Houston team that has looked disappointing so far. And also, by the way, a Houston team that is on the road this week and goes to play a very, very angry and embarrassed Columbus team. Good luck, Ben Olsen.
Yeah, it's rough, but I mean, another big pressing just thing that happened,
Mhm.
obviously news wise, especially as it broke right before this game happened. Sorry, I saw pointing and I got nervous. Had to like do a double take to see what was going on in the game. But one thing obviously that came out is that Messi obviously is not starting in this game. Apparently, he's not injured, but according to the head coach and the club, they don't want to risk injury because of muscle overload discomfort during the game against Sporting. So just want to take it easy, which I
Yeah,
respect. I mean, you want to rest him. Like if he's not having is not if he's feeling uncomfortable, if there's some muscle soreness or anything, you don't want to risk it because you don't want to make it a worse injury if you do.
yeah, I agree with you, and I think that's an important thing is that you don't want to risk it with him, and because you need him the entire season. He's that guy. He is a draw, not just a ticketing draw, but like he is a gravitational draw on the field. He's on the field, everyone's paying attention. He opens things up for everybody. anybody else, and he makes players around him better. And you got to manage him because you have to get to the you have to get to the playoffs. Obviously, you'd love to win another. You'd love to win Supporter Shield, however you rank that in the trophy case. But the pressure on Miami feels immense this year because if you get to the playoffs again, that's great. If you get washed by another 8 seed, then what are we doing here? Because now that'll be 2.5 years of Messi that you have wasted. Which I mean, to be fair, when he came in the first year, he came in halfway through, and Miami was dead in the water and damn near dragged themselves into the playoffs. But you can't waste another year of him, can you?
No, you cannot. I think there's a lot more pressure on Inter Miami this season than a lot of people I think are realizing. I You got to make something of it. You have this
Mm-hmm.
star-studded cast. It's Messi and friends. They the time was last year when they came in and Atlanta United and 8C would be able to come in and just wreck their party. They were able to come in and just destroy it.
I just didn't care.
Yeah, and because they had nothing to lose at that point,
Mm-hmm.
and you're going up against it's David versus Goliath, and it able to come through. David was able to do it, and you're coming into this season, and there's a lot of pressure wanting to come in and try to get something out of this group, whether it's a trophy. Because I'll say it here as well, Supporter Shield is great. That's
It's not what
cool.
it used to be.
But exactly, like you got to come out. There's got to be something else. Like I would rather not have the Supporter Shield and win MLS Cup.
Ask. I'm with you, especially nowadays because the schedule's so unbalanced. When it was balanced, I was much more receptive to that idea.
Yeah,
Um, Personally. Um, that being said, in 2024, 2025, the schedule's not balanced. Give me the big trophy at the end. Supporter Shield is great. I'll tell you what, even when it mattered, ask Red Bulls which one they would have rather had in 2018. It's the one that has eluded them. And the Shield eluded Atlanta, but it didn't sting as badly because you got the last one. I think timing also helps. You got the last trophy of the year and the big one with the big stage that we've built a big emotional drive towards. And yeah, the Shield is important in a lot of places. I don't think it's as important now, and I think people still try and make it more important than it is. It still has value. It's not to say you shouldn't celebrate. If you win the Shield, you should parade it around your stadium and take it to your supporter section and let them do whatever they want with it. You should let them use it for a charcuterie board if they would like. Live your best life. But yeah, that MLS Cup is the difference. Like that's the one. That is the big trophy that people are grinding up on at Magic City, not the Shield.
and even too, hey, if Inter Miami can come in and win the Concacaf Champions Cup, hey,
Oh my
that's more
God,
silverware.
that I think that would make it worth everything.
Hmm.
Um, Also, you're just going to rub it in Seattle's face 110%. 110%.
Absolutely. And we're still on the Miami because as we kind of move
Hmm.
towards a little bit more of the news and notes of what's going on heading into week 3, couple big things. A lot of tension in the Inter Miami versus Houston Dynamo match. Obviously, number one, the disciplinary committee fined Jordi Alba an undisclosed fine. He apparently had violated the hands, face, head, neck of an opponent in the 95th minute of the match against Houston Dynamo. So
Okay.
he will be fined for that. But also, another big thing is in that game, towards the very end, final whistle had blown, everything was fine. A red card was shown to Ian Frey.
Yeah.
And according to Joe Dickerson, when he was there was a bit of tugging, but you can see the Houston Dynamo player kind of pulling on him a little bit, kind of egging it on. He pushes him off of it. Joe Dickerson said that he kind of went face right here, hands to the neck there. Red card was shown. That red
Yeah.
card has been rescinded. It was announced, I believe, yes, it was today at 11 a.m. It
Hmm.
was completely rescinded. So Ian Frey will be available for Inter Miami in the league this week as well. But I mean, I know when I watched it, I thought it was a bit harsh. I thought when you
They have
look back,
Charlotte too, by the way, so like he's needed.
Yeah, he's very much needed, and honestly too, you look back at another play that I even saw, and Jordi Alba gets absolutely stepped on, and nothing is done about it. Like,
I
for me, it was very much like an overreaction, and I don't think it was needed.
my issue here is with Joe Dickerson, and it's not the first time we've had an issue with Joe Dickerson as an official. It's kind of like offensive linemen and referees. You don't want to know their name. If you know their name, it's for a really good reason or a really bad reason. And Joe Dickerson has been the latter for the last few years. He's been a part of some testy situations. He was part of one here with Dago Amata a couple of years ago. Where Amata got into it with him after the whistle, and Dickerson didn't just walk away and defuse the situation, but kind of put himself in the middle of it. Amata makes contact with him, and Amata breaks the rules by making contact with the official, and he is suspended according to the rule book. That's fine. My issue with that one at the time was that, like, Dickerson, just walk away. Take yourself out of the situation. But he keeps popping up in these. If in 2025 we're rescinding red cards, that needs to be like a giant the largest, go to Michael's and get the largest red Sharpie you can. I know you know what I'm talking about. The giant ones
Oh,
that you
yeah.
could like
Oh,
beat a
yeah.
badger to death with.
Mhm.
Get that and strike it on the permanent record. Because in 2025, we have VAR, we have assistant VAR. We have so many officials on the field. We are paying attention to this stuff so much that if you're rescinding a red card in 2025, everyone involved needs to have a slash on their record. Like, what were you doing? Why were you doing it? How were you doing it? Just a series of W words, why, where, who, and then give them another one for the Jordi Alba one because that was unacceptable. Go back and watch. If you haven't seen it, you go back and watch the clip. Uh, there's Alba wins a tackle for a ball, and I forget who it is for Houston. Just like foghorn leghorn
Mm,
Looney Tune style, just walks up and just does like the bankhead bounce on Jordi Alba's foot,
mhm.
like very much intentional. I don't know how it was missed. Um, I I don't. I don't know what was going on there. But that's one you cannot miss because you have a player taking an intentionally violent act towards another player. You cannot miss that. I understand there's things going on. You have VAR, you have assistant VAR. That's one you cannot afford to miss. But Joe Dickerson is one of those that I see his name. I'm like, take a deep breath. It's kind of like in Bull Durham where Saran just picks up the glove and just kind of holds it and is like, grab the glove, let's get ready. Because I just never know what's going to happen
Yeah.
when Joe Dickerson's in the middle.
Yeah, it was a weird game. It was a weird
It
one
was.
because you look at some of those moments and, I don't actually know if VAR could have even done anything to, like, signal to Joe Dickerson after the game, like, has already been done and final whistle's blown. I don't even think you can even use that to even do that, but obviously, the disciplinary committee looked at it, they reviewed it, and it was rescinded. I actually believe Inter Miami contested it, and then it
Yeah.
was reviewed, and then they brought it back, which
And you only get a few of those a year. So if you're using one, you firmly believe that you're going to win
yeah,
because they're like coaches' challenges in
mm,
another sport. You don't just get to challenge every red card. You got to be strategic about which ones you challenge.
yeah, yeah, and so that's kind of the bigger news of the MLS week. Not a lot of big changes through a
Hmm.
couple teams as well, especially as we head into week 3. So let's go ahead and get into what we can expect from week 3. So we'll go ahead and start with the first game on Saturday, which is a 2:30 kick, and that is Columbus hosting Houston.
Godspeed, Houston. Columbus are pissed. Houston's not good. Like this feels like let's go football with the analogy. This
Okay.
feels like Bama just lost a game on the road and they're embarrassed about it and somebody's coming to Tuscaloosa and they're picking the wrong time to come to Tuscaloosa because Bama's gonna be mad. Now, I trust Columbus more than I trust Kalen DeBoer Bama. So there's that. Um, Speaking as a non-Bama fan, um,
Yes.
but this feels a lot like Houston's just gonna be a is just seeing Columbus at the exact wrong time.
It's unfortunate. It's really unfortunate, especially as Houston's coming off of that loss to Inter Miami, obviously on Sunday Night Soccer as well. So
Hmm.
that one could get interesting in how it all plays out. But moving on in
Yeah.
the Western Conference at 4:45, we have Seattle Sounders hosting LAFC.
I look forward to seeing what Seattle continues to do, just because Seattle's always funny to me because they're a team that like is always anxious and always wringing their hands about things, and you watch them all year long. They'll be nervous. They'll wring their hands like, "Oh, we got this problem. We got that problem. We have all these things going on. Oh man, that sounds awful. How is it going? Oh, we're third in the West. What?
Hello?
Like they persevere.
Yeah.
Like they Brian Schmetzer just perseveres. But again, LAFC, it's at Lumen Field in Seattle. I don't expect anything from LAFC or from LAFC, and it's not because I don't think they're good. I think they're very good. Um, but they just took a shillelagh to Columbus in the midweek. They might rest players for this game because they know they're going to get Columbus's best shot. Those 3-0 games as we get, I know I'm getting ahead of myself, those 3-0 games like the return leg in Columbus next week is going to be fun because when it's those 3-0 games, they're tricky to watch because you're like, man, that first 10, 15 minutes, if Columbus can take one of the first 10, 15 minutes, then LAFC seizes up a bit maybe, then the door kind of opens. It could get a lot of fun and it could be really dumb. And that's kind of what I'm hoping for is really dumb games. But give me Seattle here.
The beauty of CONCACAF. The beauty
Oh
of
yes, absolutely.
CONCACAF. We'll go ahead and get into this next one. It is Atlanta United versus the New York Red Bulls. That is at 7:30, and they will be at the beautiful Mercedes-Benz Stadium. This one, for me, as a if Atlanta fan from 2017, obviously even now, I love these games. I
First
just
real rivalry.
I completely agree with you. This is like for me, I always know whenever it's Atlanta versus New York Red Bulls, it's always going to be a good game, no matter what.
And I say that with the utmost respect for Red Bulls because
Absolutely.
it is they like we do the joke all the time about like and Red Bulls and NYC do the joke all the time about like who's New York City, who's like just Red Bulls just be Jersey. But the Red Bulls always kind of have this like blue collar rough and tumble style about them that kind of flew in the face of what Atlanta wanted to do at times. Um, and it was always just kind of fun. And these games are always dumb. They're always chaotic. They always get tense. We had a sending off last year when Atlanta pulled out the 2-0 home win.
Hmm.
Kudos. Tyler Wolf's last goal with Atlanta United, by the way, um, in that game. The Red Bulls are really good though. Like again, they I feel like we forget. Do we forget that they made MLS Cup and lost 2-1? Like they weren't bad. They're
No,
good. Like
no.
it's a really good team. So Atlanta's kind of in a gauntlet early on here, and you got to show me something, and it's going to be tough, and you're going to suffer, and that's okay.
This will be another calling card. Definitely tune into Training Ground Dispatch for today and for Tuesdays as well. We talked a lot about what the team is going to be doing going up against New York Red Bulls this week. I think a big challenge is going to be closing down Forsberg for sure. New York Red
Yeah.
Bulls was a completely different team with Forsberg last season. They've added a couple of new players as well. I think that front three is dangerous in what they can do. But Forsberg for me is a standout. Just I mean, first of all, gorgeous goal against Nashville. Just cuts it right inside and just like, oh my goodness, beautiful.
We'll get to
Um,
you in a minute, Nashville. You're not getting out of this without a beating.
yeah, like it just he just hammered it home. He was like, I can, why not? And
Yeah.
I think you go up against a player like him, there's it's going to be dangerous, and I think it'll be a real test for Atlanta to see how they respond and how they bounce back. And from what we heard today from Sabo Lopjanice, from Ronnie Dyla, and even too when we talked to Bartosz Slisz and Matt Edwards on Tuesday, I mean the team is bounced back and they're ready to go. They're they're in it. And we got to see that on Saturday. I think you got to see that fight. You got to see something on Saturday against New York Red Bulls because this is a. I don't want to say it's a statement game, but it's a game where you need to show it. You need to show something.
No, I agree with you. And Ronnie Dyla is going to be familiar with them from his time at NYC. He's going to
Mhm.
be familiar with Red Bulls, and it's a different like this Red Bulls team is a different one. I think they're a better team on the ball than they've been in the past. They're a more complete team. They have a guy like Forsberg, who they've been missing for so long. That guy who can be the difference maker. They tried so many different guys to be that difference maker, and we're not able to lock it in and get him to produce. And Forsberg's that dude who, like you said, he just did it because he could against Nashville. And it's kind of like it always reminds me of like when like great players are bad coaches sometimes like I need you to succeed. I don't know how to do that. Just do the thing where you're better than everybody. Yeah, I don't have that in my bag. You have that in your bag. Emil Forsberg just has that moment where he's like, I can do this better than you can, and I'm going to let you know. Go pick the ball out of your own net and take this lesson and run with it. Um, it it's gonna be contentious, and I think Ronnie Dial is fine with that. I think you could if you told me there are red cards in this game, I would believe you just because it could get the teams already don't care for each other. We saw last year that Stian Gregerson was willing to get up in somebody's face. Sleesh was able to get up in somebody's face. It could get tense. Somebody could do something stupid. It's always a possibility with these two teams, and I appreciate it because yeah, like Orlando is that rivalry. We call it a rivalry. It is a rivalry. Even if the league tried to manufacture it and they succeeded, where they are that kind of manufactured geographical rivalry, uh, Red Bulls is that natural rivalry that started day one with a blown 1-0 lead at home, going through 2018, losing games, then losing the Shield on the last day, then just absolutely wearing them out in the playoffs and stopping what was going to be their coronation. Like, it's a rivalry. It's okay. It is my favorite rivalry for Atlanta because of the history with it, Maddie. It's just the years that have gone by.
It's I'm just so excited for the game. I'm honestly so excited. And we get a double whammy of it because tomorrow we get Atlanta United 2 versus New York Red Bulls 2. So, we get 2 days of Atlanta versus New York Red Bulls and rivalry
Yeah.
sweetness. So, going to be a ton of fun. We'll go ahead and move on to the next game. All of these games are going to be at 7:30 as we get into MLS 360 hour. It is FC Cincinnati hosting Toronto.
Good luck, Toronto. I don't
That's
know. I don't know if Robin Fraser's a good coach in MLS. It is not Robin Fraser's fault. When he was in Colorado, did not have a budget to work with, did not have a team to work with, overachieved one year, then came back crashing down to earth. Now he's in Toronto, where they fired John Herdman because of the scandal with Canadian soccer and drones. Um, and Robin Fraser's just kind of like picking up the pieces with stars who may or may not want to be there. And God bless him for doing it. But I can't. I'm not going to tell you that Robin Fraser is a bad coach if Toronto ends up on the bottom of the table, just because there's so many pieces of this plate that have to be picked up off the ground.
yeah. I'm gonna just second you. Good luck, Toronto. I'm just gonna second that one for that one.
It's probably
Oh
going to hurt, and that's it's okay.
yeah.
It's okay. If you get hit enough time, the nerve endings will just go dead. Don't worry about it.
Oh my god. All right, another one that is interesting. We got at 7:30. We got DC United hosting Sporting Kansas City.
My eternal quest to see if Sporting Kansas City um, can actually get out of the coffin, or if they're going to slip on the banana peel on the way out and somehow bring more dirt into the coffin with them. I don't know what to make of Kansas City. Like, we don't have to worry about Alan Pulido missing games anymore because he's not on the roster. But like Johnny Russell's gone. Like, it feels like a sea change for Kansas City, and then DC's in a rebuild. Um, that's where I'm at with it. Like, it'll be a fun game. I will keep an eye on it because I am a sick, broken human being. But I'm not. It's not going to be my primary game. This is on the phone, not the quad box on the TV, metaphorically.
Yeah. You turn you turn on MLS 360 and you watch
Yeah,
it all play out.
yeah.
It's perfect. Perfect.
You let Kevin Egan tell you about this game.
Yes.
You don't go find it yourself. You let your guide through the witch's path do his job.
Moving on, we got New England versus Philadelphia.
I am a firm believer this game is in New England. Um,
It
so
is.
John and I have played this game every year. Um, it's not. I don't
Yep.
mean it to be mean. It's gonna sound mean. It's gonna come off as mean. I don't mean it to play Grim Reaper. But before every season, we do talk about who's the first coach to be gone. Um, Caleb Porter is a very interesting name in that conversation. Also, it sounds like he and Richie Williams had a spat last week, and they've downplayed it, which you would expect. That's fine. That's just good PR. It's good PR. Um, Philadelphia's not the team you want to see right now. Not the team really anybody wants to see right now. They rolled up with the bike, they took the chain off the bike, and they've wrapped it around their hand. New England, and I can't help you.
Yeah, that one I think could get really, really bad really quickly. I could see that one being another 4 goals for Philadelphia in that one. So
That'd be hilarious if Philadelphia just starts rallying off 4 goals a game like they're playing in Scotland as an old firm team. That'd be amazing.
oh my gosh, I don't even know what I would do. I don't even know. I'd be speechless. I'd be
Well,
speechless.
Philadelphia right now is so high on their own supply after winning a super
Yeah.
after not winning a Super Bowl, but like de-atomizing the Kansas
Yep.
City Chiefs. Kendrick Lamar covered more yardage during the halftime show than Kansas City did in the first half.
That is a stat that I didn't know I needed. That is amazing.
But so Philadelphia is feeling themselves, and I cannot blame them one bit.
No. You
Everyone wrote them off before this season, and they have 8 goals in 2 games and have obliterated 2 teams and might do it again.
they might just want to keep it rolling, just see if they can do it,
Yes.
honestly.
Yeah. Schedule some NPSL teams during the midweek. Try and keep this positive momentum going.
All right, next one, the last game at the 7:30 hour. We have NYC hosting Orlando.
I don't know what to make of this one though. Like I always want to trust Orlando because I believe Oscar Pereira has an amazing coach in this league, and I
Yes,
think he will end up in the Hall of Fame for what he's done.
very
Um,
solid coach.
man, but I feel like Orlando fans are always like waiting for a reason to ask for a different coach, which feels like it feels like the Philip Fulmer rule of we need someone other than Philip Fulmer. Well, Tennessee wandered the desert for a long ass time, Orlando. Just letting you know. Oscar Pereira's fine. You're
He's
going to
a
go to Yankee Stadium. If you lose in Yankee Stadium, congratulations. Here's a pin. Everyone's done it. It happens. It's okay.
All right, now we got Austin versus Colorado, and there's Austin hosting Colorado, and that's going to be at 8:30.
I really like Colorado, and I think some of this is also my thing with Chris Armas, who, by most accounts, of any account I've heard, one of the good guys, like one of the good human beings, like, and it's easy, and a guy who's easy to root for. Um, I think Colorado would come back down to earth this season a bit, and that's okay. Um, all of the Texas teams are weird though this year. Like Houston, not good early. Uh, Dallas, liked what we saw from Dallas in preseason.
Hmm.
We've seen so far from Dallas during the season. Austin, I have no idea. Don't ask me. I can't help you. My compass on Austin is just doing circles right now. Like the magnets are just spinning. I don't know what to make of Austin. We're just gonna have to wait and see.
As quoting, you mentioned Houston Dynamo. Have to mention as quoting Mr. Longshore. Very disappointed, Houston. Very disappointed.
Yeah, he was really upset with that because it was just like we're like watching Jason watch this game through text, and he's just
It is
melting
like,
down slowly as Miami is just absolutely demoralizing Houston blow after blow.
I went to, like, my kitchen at one point to grab, like, a water or something, and I came back, and all I see is that it just went from, like, 2 to 3 and, like, not
Yeah.
even I was like,
Mhm.
"What did I miss?" And then the text came through, and I was like, "Oh, no.
Yeah. Mm.
Oh, no, it's not good." But speaking of the other Texas team, we
Yes.
do have Dallas hosting Chicago.
Chicago is my dark horse pick to win a trophy this year.
Okay,
Because I think and I don't even, it's not rooted in anything logical, Maddie. It is
okay.
rooted in narrative wise. The funniest thing in the world to me would be Greg Berhalter winning a trophy in year one because everyone in this country who is watching MLS and also fits that Venn diagram of US soccer fans would collectively have an aneurysm. And I would laugh because I think Greg Berhalter is a really, really good club coach. Go back and look at what he did with those Columbus teams. It's
Yeah,
okay to separate that from his time with the national team and feel disappointed with what he did. Totally agreed with that. Thought he did some good things with the national team, but it was time for it to end, and the national team has its own set of problems to deal with. He was a really good club manager in Columbus, in my opinion, considering he wasn't given the resources that you've seen Columbus have in the years since. A lot of that having to do with ownership issues that you have an owner who literally tried to Mayflower that team down to Austin at one point. But yeah, give me Chicago and being fun and like give me Chicago flourishing just because it would be funny, even though this is down at Toyota Stadium.
moving on, we have another one that is kind of a question mark for me. We got Nashville hosting the Portland Timbers.
So Nashville, I need you to go out behind the house. I'm gonna hand you the pruning shears. I'm gonna need you to cut your own switch. And if the switch ain't big enough, I'm gonna go cut it myself. Um, I don't know what the hell you've done the first 2 weeks. You need to cut it out.
Oh,
Because I look, Portland is coming in off of a gritty win after getting embarrassed in week one, and I don't know what to make of Portland. I don't know what to make of them for the last 2 years. They have been kind of schizophrenic. What the hell are they going to look like coming into Nashville? Nashville needs to right the ship, and Nashville is again in another team that is in a sea change. Like they made the change, um, middle of last year, both with manager and philosophy. There's going to be bumps in the road. I think Nashville will eventually figure it out, but for right now, it's just kind of like this is going to hurt for you and everyone else, and we're just going to have to roll with it, Nashville. You're walking down the gravel driveway barefoot. You'll get there. It's going to have some bumps.
as we move to the 9:30 p.m. slot, we have Salt Lake hosting the new expansion team in San Diego.
Uh, so I believe Nico said this morning on the morning show that RSL was a team that was looking at Raul Ruidiaz, the former Seattle striker, who would be providing depth, and they need that. Chicharrango moved in the off season to the Quakes, who we'll get to later. But the thing is, they need that production sooner rather than later, I think. And we'll see what that looks like for Salt Lake and for San Diego. The more tape we get on them, I think we'll get a better feel. That first game was such a fun, emotional experience. Second game, yep, gritty draw. Cool. You've experienced two of the three weird things. The third would be going to the Riot. You can call it America First Field, whatever you want. It's always going to be Rio Tinto, the Riot, in my heart and soul. The third true outcome now is to go on the road in MLS to a bit of a higher altitude place, kind of a weird stadium, and somehow wonder why you're picking your teeth up off the ground. It happens.
I love that stadium. Every time I see photos of it, I want to go see it. Because imagine just, watching a beautiful game of soccer and you just see the mountains. I love it.
Salt
I
Lake City is a weird place in that regard, just because you'll like walk outside of a building, and you're like, it's a mountain range. That's cool. And not like the Appalachian Mountains where it's
Yeah,
just these rolling, beautiful hills. It's like mountain, mountain, mountain.
I love it. Every time I see photos, it makes me want to go every single time. But
Yes, same.
As we go to the other game at the 9:30 p.m. slot, we have Vancouver hosting CF Montreal.
Um, I still like CF Montreal, but I think I like Vancouver more. This feels like a super fun game, like because we're gonna be just finishing up Atlanta United
Yes.
um, when this is kicking off. This feels like a really if you're at home or if you're waiting on the MARTA train or if you're stuck in traffic, this feels like a good one to throw on with your Apple. Pull up Apple TV, watch this one because Vancouver's been very impressive. I
Hmm.
like what we've seen from Montreal, even though it hasn't produced wins yet. I think they're gritty and I think they're fun. Um, but I really like what Vancouver's doing.
I would agree with you as well. I think that one's going to be a fun one. I That one is as soon as we get done with Atlanta United, when we get done with post game, I'm gonna have that one already going
Yeah,
as
just queue
soon
it
as
up.
I get in the car. Yeah,
Agreed.
absolutely. Last one at 10:30 for the Saturday games. We have the Quakes hosting Minnesota.
Um, Minnesota's was fine. Look, never sneeze at a 1-0 win in this league. Wins are wins. How you
Mhm.
get them is immaterial at times. Um, San Jose might not be screwing around. San Jose is also part of my, as I said, I want my part of my thing would be Chicago to win a trophy because it would give everyone an aneurysm seeing Greg Berhalter lift hardware. The other one would be seeing Bruce lift a trophy
Yeah.
with San Jose. Would be very funny. Also, they may or may not. I don't know. That team may or may not implode into fights at some point, and it might make them better. There'd be no way of knowing. Um, I'll take San Jose here at PayPal Park, which I'm pretty sure is near the airport. You have to like move. You have to go somewhere else to fly out because you can't fly out at a certain time because of residential areas. Um, San Jose is a weird, magical place. Ask Jason about that next chance you get.
Oh, I will. Don't worry. That'll be the first thing we talk about before we get to twos
Yeah,
tomorrow. We'll have a quick convo. Quick convo.
yeah.
Moving on to Sunday for some Sunday soccer action, we have the 4 p.m. game that is Inter Miami hosting Charlotte FC.
So it's going to sound like pettiness, and there's no way for me not to sound like I'm being petty when I say this. I want to see more from Charlotte. We know they can win with what they did against Atlanta, which was that long ball and playing great defense. They're always capable of playing
Yeah.
great defense. They're always going to be very well organized. If they can't play through you and they start just yeeting the ball down the field, what happens if teams don't make mistakes? Can they grit through and create enough? And will Miami have Messi for this game? I don't know. By the way, that game is coming up on halftime, still tied at 0.
Ooh.
Um, I know it's in Miami too. That's at Chase Stadium in Miami. It would behoove Miami to just kind of put some daylight between them and Calvary.
Yeah.
Um,
It also makes it
so
interesting too if it stays 0-0.
it does.
Then that next game becomes a lot more
Mhm.
important, and then you have Inter Miami versus Atlanta on that Sunday night game. Makes it
Yeah,
very interesting.
it makes it very interesting for this game against Charlotte, and makes it very interesting for Atlanta next week.
Yep.
Um, so like you tell me Charlotte goes in there and wins like a 1-0 2-1 game against Miami, 2-0 game. Yeah, I believe it. I think
Mhm.
Charlotte's good. I want to see how when they're not able to play through a team and someone like Atlanta who frustrated them in the first half.
Yeah.
I want to see if they can continue to make those adjustments and be gritty and fight through those struggles because it's the mark of a great team and they might have that in them. I just want to see. It's not I don't I'm not doubting them, but it's a good test for them.
It's a very good test. It kinda reminds me a little bit similar to kind of the test going up for Atlanta this weekend with Red Bulls. It's kind of a, "All right, you've done it here, like, let's see if you can do it in this moment as well," and also too, going on the road and doing it. That's gonna be another test because Charlotte had that game in Seattle where they were able to tie it up thanks to an own goal,
Yeah.
and then they won against Atlanta, got a long ball, and then were able to kind of hold off on the defense and hold it down. Let's see what they can do against Inter Miami. But the
Hey,
last
winning
one,
winning ugly is still winning.
yeah, absolutely. Now, last game of the week 3 matchups in is Sunday night soccer at 7 p.m. We have the LA Galaxy hosting St. Louis.
Um, this is a Concacaf game. This is like a give me St. Louis on the road here if I get to put juice boxes because LA lost to Herediano, y'all. Like they went on the road to Central America, lost late, and they're gonna have to turn this around against Herediano at home after the travel. So they'll be able to stay from the weekend, Sunday night, to playing Tuesday, Wednesday, whatever. I could actually check the schedule instead of just guessing. Um, Wednesday at 10:30 p.m. So they'll have a couple days to rest, but they'll be able to stay home.
Yeah.
But this is if I were them, I'm punting against St. Louis a bit. If you still win, great. If you draw, great. I would be tempted to put whatever Easter candy you want because we're coming into Easter time. I would be willing to put whatever Easter candy you want on St. Louis just because it's kind of fits into that Concacaf moment, you know.
Yeah. Very excited for Easter, by the way. I get to have my Cadbury eggs. Those are my favorite Easter candy.
Don't ask John his candy takes, please, for your sake.
Oh, oh Lord. I don't even want to know. I don't
No,
even
you
want to
don't.
know. Oh gosh.
This is a health and safety request. Nothing more,
Oh,
nothing less.
God. If it's an almond joy, I'll be upset.
I don't even know if it's that. I'll have
Is
to
it
ask him.
worse than an almond joy?
There's always a chance.
Oh God. Oh no, now I'm nervous. Oh, okay. Well, I
Yeah.
won't ask him about it. I think it's just better to be just, blind for that one. That way I don't
Yeah, yeah.
get to
You put the Clydesdale blinders on and you look straight ahead.
yeah. Exactly. I don't
Get
want to
your
know.
Cadbury's
I'm just
eggs
gonna
and your Reese's eggs and put them on whatever game you want to put them on. Again, I will never condone juice boxes on MLS because this league is too chaotic. But I can give you what my heart tells me and what my head tells me. But when the ball hits the ground, and especially when we get into weird times of the year where we might get an orange ball, those are the best times. Those rare, beautiful treats. That's when it gets the most fun.
I do want to have an orange ball game. I do. That is
Yes.
my one hope this season is that we get one of those. But
Well, CONCACAF took one away from us. We could have had one with Kansas City and Miami in the CONCACAF Champions Cup. They instead of playing in like 2 degrees and a snowdrift, they wanted to play in 2 degrees and no snowdrift.
so sad. It would have been so fun. It would have been amazing. Anyway,
No
they
one
didn't
wants
want
to
the
be a Viking
CONCACAF crazy.
anymore.
They didn't want the CONCACAF craziness.
No,
Whatever. It's
they
fine.
did not.
Well, anyways, guys, that was MLS Six Pack for this week. Getting ready for week 3 in the MLS season here in 2025. Jarrett Smith, thank you so much for joining us.
Of
And
course.
let's get ready for match week number 3. It's going to be a ton of fun, everyone. So thank you all so much for listening. And we will see you guys all on Friday, which is tomorrow, for Atlanta United 2 versus New York Red Bulls 2 at Fifth Third Stadium.